Hello, land flippers. This is Chris Thomas, and this is Land Flipping 101, my tips for buying land. So, if you're someone who's looking to become a land investor, you need to watch today. I'm going to share with you information that you absolutely must know if you're going to be transacting land. So, in Land Flipping 101, I'm teaching beginners how to flip land online without leaving your home, without having money or having any expertise. And I'll be sharing with you real world experiences of this business, information that you really hear nowhere else. But first, Jeff Griffin and Joshua Darling asked a question about marketing your property once it's under contract to purchase, which, as you know, is the way that I do it. And that's an easy answer. Thanks for the question. It's just get it in front of as many qualified people as you can, which is simple, right? But where do people search for real estate? Just putting your listing up on those websites is really all you need to do. So those main websites are the MLS. Believe it or not, Facebook Marketplace is one of my key areas. And then just posting it on all the websites that are like traders posts or local to the area, like Craigslist, or just wherever people are looking for property. They're looking on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, and places like that. So hope that helps. So with all the competition out there right now in the house flipping sector, there's a fair amount of number of real estate investors that think the Holy Grail is now to move into land flipping and investing. And also because the real estate market is so strong, there are a lot of people that are just jumping in and buying land as opposed to maybe putting money in the stock market or buying bonds. Well, I've often heard the comment that land is simpler. It's easier than buying a house. And well, the reason for that, I mean, they tend to picture the problems with flipping a house, maybe where you have to deal with an inspection, where they could find plumbing problems or electrical problems, or there could be termite damage, or there could be foundation issues, and on and on and on. And that is true. But land does have its own set of issues, and usually by the time you're in the world of flipping a house, the original developer of that home already overcame all of the land issues and all of the land details that we're going to talk about. So it's not the Holy Grail. It does have its own set of challenges, but yes, there are lots of opportunities in land. So I hope to help you not only make good decisions, but also negotiate better deals. And now you're going to know the ins and outs of land buying. So the first thing I would say is important for a land investor and for land investing purposes would be access. It simply must have road access, and this is especially true for new investors. I've had several people message me about landlocked properties and what do I do, and this can really affect the property value. So it's important to understand the difference between like a fee simple title and having an easement, which provides legal access to the property. If you can access your property from a county road, that's called fee simple title. If you have to go down a private road that's maintained by the neighbors, then you must have an easement. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be a paved road. It could just be a dirt road, but it needs to be county maintained. Unless you have that county maintained status, oftentimes you can't get permits for septic, which means that the land can never have a house on it until it becomes part of the county maintained road. Now you can put some cows on there and run some cattle, or I mean, yes, there are other things you can do with the land, but you may not be able to put any kind of a primary residence or any sort of residential property on it, which can really reduce the value. So you definitely need to look at this. The next thing is the deed. I mean, is everyone listed on the deed alive and able to sign the purchase agreement? Also look at, are there any deed restrictions? A deed restriction can say you're not allowed to subdivide, or it could say you can't have a mobile home. Also, the deed will tell you if there are any easements over your property. The next thing would be taxes. Have they been paid up? Does it have an agricultural property tax exemption? Like you can get that for a land lease if you lease out your land to a farmer, or someone, if you just add cattle, or you could even just add bees or wildlife to get this exemption. But you have to apply for it and explain the intended use of the land. The next thing is terrain, or the topography. You have to understand who will want to buy the property. So if it's a property for a country home, you may want to be on the hill out looking over the sea, or just having a view. Or if you're farming, you might want a pretty flat piece of land that drains very well and doesn't have a floodplain to it. So is it cleared land or is it treed? And you can see that on Google Maps. Look at the terrain, and what you need to be careful of here is when you're negotiating, you're looking to buy the land, you need to make sure to understand if the other comps are comparing that they're both cleared land or treed, because cleared land is going to have a different value to it. And you have to be careful about regulation. I know, like in Florida, if you're going to cut down a tree that's more than 12 inches in diameter, you have to get a permit, and then you can usually have to plant new trees to compensate for that. So just be careful when negotiating, kind of look at those details. Of course, also with topography includes hills and a flood zone I mentioned. You need to know that the land you're looking at, if it has wetlands on it, I think the Department of Environmental Protection wants to make sure, you just need to make sure that the vegetation on the land is being protected, or if it is being protected. Now, thankfully, there is a tool where you can find it. It's the Wetlands Inventory Mapper, and you can Google that to see where the government thinks there is wetlands on the land. And that's so significant for several reasons. Like if you're going to make any major amends like putting a driveway across a wetlands area, it could, there's just a lot to that. So just, you need to look at the wetland inventory or the wetland mapper just to make sure whether it is wetlands and whether the wetland is wet. Now the flood zone is different from wetlands, so you need to also know about that. It's determined by FEMA. And there's a map online where you can see if the land is in a flood zone. I think you can just Google FEMA flood zone map and it'll come up. Let's see. That's all I'll say about that for now. For the next one would be zoning and land use. Very important part of land deals, and it's usually county specific. Can't even be city specific. And this may take you the longest to understand, because you might have to dig and dig and dig to learn exactly what's allowed and not allowed with zoning of a particular piece of property. And then the reason why it becomes so difficult is because there are so many shades of gray. And I don't really ever recommend that you get into the business of trying to change zoning. I mean, some people do that, and it can be a very long process. It does not always work out because all the people in that area might vote against it. And so if you're looking for properties that already have the correct zoning, it's going to just make your life much easier, especially as a beginner. And then there's also zoning overlays that can play a key role because, anyway, they're just, you need to know what the zoning is. You need to know what the land use is, and make sure when you decide to market the property that you speak to those things and don't misrepresent it as being able to do something else. Okay, the next tip is to know about utilities. So, those of us who live in the city know that we flush our toilets, we turn on our lights, and we run our faucet every day. But those amenities are not necessarily available on a more rural piece of property. So you have to consider asking all the right questions about whether or not utilities are accessible, and how much is it going to cost to bring these utilities to the property. Is there a water line at the county road, or do you need to drill a water well? Is there a is there a septic tank already on site, or will you have to install one, or can you tap into the city sewer? Electricity to the property is obviously important, and I've seen it cost as much as $30,000 just to bring electricity to a rural piece of property. So if it doesn't have all the utilities in place, that's okay. Buyers can get with builders to put together a land and home package, and lenders will usually include the cost of running utilities to the property in the loan. The next thing would be attributes. And the only thing I could say about attributes is the property near a lake? Does it have a view? Is it near the ocean? Is it in the mountains? Those are the kinds of things that you need to know about the property, specifically for when you're marketing it to sell. The next thing, is it a good size? Is it a desirable size? Is it affordable? Compared to other properties that are selling in the area, can you get it for a good price? Are there buildings on it? And then, of course, endangered species. I want to include this just because this is a very real problem if you're looking to develop that land in any way after you acquire it. So whether you're personally just going to put your dream home on it, or if you have visions of building a subdivision, some people in the land business do. You need to know about endangered species. But I guess those are really the main tips that I would have for you about if you want to get into land investing. Hope that's helpful. And if I can find the comments, I will try to answer questions. But for some reason, I can't see them. They are not showing. So I will just answer the comments today in as I type because I'm having trouble with technical problems here with Facebook. So I'm going to end it here. I hope that was helpful. Please let me know what you think and send me a message anytime, and I'll help you move forward in your land investing business. Have a good weekend.